Eric, talk about the first steps for moving from a sedentary lifestyle to a fit lifestyle where I'm getting the results that I want out of my body and out of how I feel.
I think if we're totally sedentary, a lot of people have a hard time finding the motivation to get started right away. I think doing things that help you get motivated, such as just get moving, find an activity or a hobby, something outside that is a higher activity level than you're used to, and just start with something like that. Get yourself moving, see how you feel. Within a couple days of doing it, I would be willing to bet you're going to notice a difference on how you feel, and then build upon that. Use that as momentum to keep going, especially once you start to feel like, okay, I can do more. I'm starting to feel that motivation take hold. Then find someone to help you. Find a coach, find a gym, find a friend that knows what they're doing. There's several routes out there that you can go. It's a matter of how much you're willing to invest in finding the right fix for you. I think finding a professional that really knows what they're doing is the best route, but that also terrifies a lot of people sometimes because they think they're not good enough to go there to them yet or something of that nature. So I think allowing yourself to be comfortable with, who you're starting with is very important to get started out of that sedentary lifestyle into something that's going to be sustainable for a fit lifestyle.
Right. And it's like in addition to that, I think we found that the hardest step is shouldering the personal embarrassment that like when you go out, you can do more, you probably shouldn't have had that lifestyle for a long time and your clothes don't fit right and you don't know what to wear and you don't have the right workout clothes. So I think almost the hardest step that I've seen people take is just, they know the sport, they know that thing. It's that step of just looking in the mirror, like, I'm not going to look right. I'm not going to feel good. I'm not going to, it's how I'm going to appear. Maybe not even to other people. It's like how I'm going to appear to me. Yep. And I think it's even worse if you were fit before. Yep. If you played high school or college sports, I think it's even, the volume is turned up on that. And in the same, a couple different caveats to this. What about sleep? So we know with sedentary lifestyle, like certain diets, we're probably not thinking about sleep. What should someone think about as it relates to fitness and sleep? Do they even work together?
They absolutely go hand in hand. I mean, your body, when you go to sleep, your body recovers from the stress of the day. That goes anywhere from stress of the children, stress of the job, stress of just day-to-day hustle and bustle. But then training also falls into that category. And so when you have a lot of other stresses going on, if you don't adjust anything else other in your lifestyle other than adding in that training stress, that's a higher need for sleep. Because at the end of the day, when you go to sleep, your body recognizes mostly stresses. That's not to say there's not some different processes going on to recover from training. At the end of the day, when you're in that deep REM sleep, your body is recovering from the stress of everything. Mm-hmm. And so when you start adding in a new stressor, especially something that's not only physically but mentally demanding on you as well, the requirement for your body to recover from that is higher. And so you do need that sleep to help you, bounce back from the training so you can keep going about your day-to-day fine.
What's enough?
That's a great question. A lot of it depends on what you're doing, how much you're doing, how's your nutrition, how's all the other things lining up with it. On average, a general statement somewhere around 7 to 8 hours is pretty standard. If you're doing more and training more and you have a lot of stress in your life, oftentimes we need more. However, people like that tend to get less. And we see that start to accumulate in terms of performance, production, mental capabilities, things like that. It starts to take a toll on the body. I think that I know for me personally, when I start noticing this stuff and I really, step back and tell myself, hey, you need to get some sleep, you need to get some recovery, and I allow myself to start doing that, I feel better, I feel clear, I feel like I'm more productive in the time I have, rather than just spinning my wheels with a lot of time that I feel like I'm just wasting things away, So I think that it's definitely a high priority people really need to implement. But when it comes down to how much is enough, there's not really a right or wrong other than more, probably.
Well, especially when our primary, the folks that are probably watching this are Americans. It's almost like sleep for so long has had a negative connotation. It was a sign of weakness and it was a sign of strength to say I could operate on less. And I think now science and all the data, it's just, it's hard to argue that you need more from wherever you're probably at. And there's technologies out there, I think, like a lot of us use the Whoop strap. You have your Apple Watch. You have all the Nike Fit. I mean, there's a lot of quantifiable self that can give you some insight on that. And the thing that I found, and I agree wholeheartedly with what you shared, is the utility of naps, where it's like I can start biting into that sleep deficit that I might have with a 15-minute or 20-minute nap. I don't drop to REM. I don't drop into deep sleep. So I don't have that like crappy waking up for a nap and it feels like you're hungover, like, oh, now I have to be productive. But those can really add up. And if you're focused on it, it'll make a difference. And now you popped in. I want to change gears just real quick on this topic before we wrap up. You brought in, and your nutrition's in line. Like you just kind of slid that in there. So I guess for the layperson, again, that sedentary person who just like, I go to the store and I buy and I eat the stuff that tastes good, right? Or the stuff I grew up eating. Like what would be 1, 2, or 3 things just in general for someone to consider with their diet when they're looking at, I'll call it the standard American diet, that they might want to shift or look at differently to help them kind of ease that transition?
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the biggest tips for people when you go grocery shopping, I tell a lot of people this, I tell a lot of my clients, my nutrition clients this, is focus on staying on the outside of the grocery. Stay towards the outer layer of that. That's typically where you're going to find your fruits, your veggies, all your lean meats, all that good stuff that has nutrients in them. I think, there's a lot of routes you can go when it comes to nutrition, but that's also part of the hard part is it becomes overly complicated a lot of times for people and they get so confused on what's good, what they should do, shouldn't do. Well, it all just depends. There's not a right answer. It depends on what you can apply and you can sustain personally. But the more foods that you can put in that have quality nutrients, vitamins, minerals, good macro compilations between your carb, protein, fats, and fiber, the better you're going to feel, the better energy you're going to have, the better your body's going to be able to use that for recovery. If I'm eating a lot of foods that have empty calories in them, such as your Twinkies, such as your Ho-Hos, your donuts, things like that, as good as those are, they don't help progress me in that direction towards my goal. They don't help me feel better. They don't help me live that healthier lifestyle. That's not to say you can't occasionally swap those out once in a while, but if you're living on a diet based around those, your body's just not going to function near to the ability it is. You probably find you're tired throughout the day, all the time, because you're not putting in fuel that actually gives you energy typically. And then because you're so tired, then you don't want to do as much. And so then we become more sedentary oftentimes. So you kind of run this vicious circle, or at least that's my experience with it. I think also adding in more water. I think it's funny. Julian actually asked me this today. He's like, is it possible to overhydrate? Yes, it is possible, but it's extremely unlikely from most people in this country, in this world, probably. We don't drink near enough and we're often overly dehydrated most of the time. And so being able to get more hydration just helps the body function and work a little more optimally as well. That's one of those, again, I think it kind of goes personally, but it's finding small things that you can do and implement in your day-to-day that you can sustain and you can see yourself doing for 1 to 10 years down the road, at least in some manner, rather than just trying for some little 4-week spurt or, 2-month spurt, things of that nature. I know you've been kind of doing stuff lately. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think I'd share what you shared, and the results that we've seen working with people, and I've seen working with people that I've coached on this is not simple. Like you're much more steeped in nutrition than I am, but there's some just like no-brainer stuff, like no sugary beverages. If you kept everything the same and even kept up your Ho-Ho diet, but like you started cutting sugary beverages,
swap it for water.
It's a keystone habit, and if you change one of those habits, the ball starts rolling in that direction. You start feeling better, and I could tell you that the things you kept the same probably aren't the reason that you feel better. And if you're still thirsty, there's another one I tried on myself, which was I would end up having like a couple beers a night. And I'm like, man, that's probably not a good habit to start. So I started drinking this gigantic thing of water when I would typically drink a beer. And I'm like, I'm allowed to have beer, but I have to drink this whole thing first. And I found myself just literally not drinking beer at all because I was just thirsty and it was convenient. So making the good things like you just shared, going on the outside aisle, coming back, but like bringing them back and making sure they're convenient and not a pain to prepare. Because from the habit structure, if I can go through the same motions and get something that's healthy versus not, that's a win. If you try to majorly change your diet and change how you go about eating the food, prepping the food, it's tough. And I saw like, hey, get a bottle or something or pre-bottle your water and put it where you would typically grab the thing that's not good for you. That's what's worked for me personally. And it's cumulative. Like one day of good diet will make you feel better, but that cumulative effect, your body has got to process. I mean, it took a while. You've been eating that a while. Your body's got to readjust. And I think you're going to be better off. But anyhow, I appreciate you sharing some of these tips, particularly for someone who stumbles upon this video and is just looking for the generalities because I want to do something. I don't know what to do. I don't even know if I want to go to a gym, but I sure don't want to feel this way anymore. So thanks, Eric.